Live. It's a good day to be a Bitcoiner. Above 19,000. You can feel the all-time high coming right around the corner. Who knows when it'll be here, but it feels like it's going to be soon. We are here to talk some Bitcoin with Desiree and Alex, but before we do, let's dive into a little update on Swan. Swan is now available in New York. Very excited about that. We are now in all 50 states and the U.S. territories. So that was the final piece of the geographic puzzle for Swan. We are in every state and territory in the United States. Super excited to have New York on board. If you are in New York, watching from New York, you can log into swanbitcoin.com and set up your account right now. Start auto stacking with Swan. Achieve that Bitcoin Zen. It's nice when price is going up and down. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to try to figure out when to buy, where's the dip going to end, etc. You're just buying all the time. You can set up a daily stack on Swan. It's a nice feeling. You just kind of chill, Swan and chill. We also have Bitcoin TV running. It's up and running. It's humming right along. We're streaming the best Bitcoin video content 24/7 now for nearly 3 weeks. It's all Bitcoin all the time. And there's a fun chat happening, 24/7 as well in the YouTube chat. And, some really fun conversations have sprung up. When the all-time high hits, I'm guessing there will be quite a few people hanging out in there. That's what happened last time. We keep hitting these kind of big number milestones. People seem to congregate, watch some Bitcoin content, talk about Bitcoin and price. And finally, we have Buy Now coming to Swan. All right. Of course, we are focused on stacking sats. It is the best and safest way to accumulate Bitcoin. But every now and then, you want to smash that buy button. You want to just buy right now. We get that. We've heard you. So we're building that into the product. You can help us test it out. We need some beta testers to come in and smash that buy button, test it out for us. So sign up for that at swanbitcoin.com/buy now. We also have a Telegram chat that I want to shout out. It's a persistent chat happening all the time. Lots of good Bitcoiners in there. Great place to just stay up on the news. We have some Bitcoiners in there that seem to always just kind of know what's up before most people and drop in news there. So it's a good place to stay up to date. t.me/swan signal is the chat. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're ready to dive in with Desiree and Alex. Desiree is the COO at Lightning Labs, and Alex is CEO and founder of Lolli. So how's it going, guys? Thanks for joining today for Swan Signal Live.
Thanks for having me. And just to clarify, I'm VP of Business Operations, but yeah.
My fault, VP of Business Operations. I don't know where I got COO then. No awesome. So I'd like to just start, this is kind of, an important sort of historical moment in Bitcoin's journey. You can feel this all-time high coming, like I was mentioning at the top. And it's a good time to reflect on personal Bitcoin journeys. So Des, let's start with you and just kind of tell me about your Bitcoin journey and what this historic moment for Bitcoin means to you.
Yeah. So how I got into Bitcoin, that's an interesting story that I always get made fun of for, which is totally fine because it's kind of ridiculous. I was in grad school and I was in a really small program, so I didn't have a ton of friends. And so I spent most of my free time on Reddit. Not that I don't actually do that now as well, but I actually stumbled on our Dogecoin ever before. I've heard about Bitcoin, but not much. And so I discovered Dogecoin before Bitcoin, and it's just a really awesome community. Obviously, it's just a meme, and so I loved it. And I just fell in love with being on the subreddit, and so I kind of just followed along with that. And then I was exposed to Bitcoin through Dogecoin, and I was like, oh, okay, there's a legitimate version of this that solves all these problems and is actually kind of pretty profound. And so while I was doing the whole management consulting thing, always followed along and was interested and active on Twitter, and then ended up at Lightning Labs a few years ago. So that's kind of been my story there. And in terms of this new price increase that we're seeing, I'm obviously very excited. I know it can kind of crowd our ability to concentrate sometimes, but for me, it's just super exciting because even though it's annoying when people text you and ask you, okay, should I buy Bitcoin now? Should I buy ETH? Ridiculous stuff. I think it's an opportunity to onboard more people, and this community tends to be very insular. So I think the more people we can bring on, the more normies we can convert. That's just all the better for Bitcoin.
Hear, hear. That is what Swan is here for. I know that's what Lolli is here for as well. And this is going to be another big cycle for bringing in new coiners, minting new coiners at every cycle. It seems to be an order of magnitude, new people coming in. I was one of the people who came in last cycle in 2017. And it feels like ages ago, man. So, Alex, let's hear your story, man. Personal journey. Let's reflect on that and hear what this moment, this kind of historic moment, means for you.
Yeah, it's been a long journey for Bitcoin, and then my team just getting into the space and everything. So I learned about Bitcoin in around I think 2013, and we were building our last company called Cosmic, and we had created this e-commerce gateway with this intent of democratizing commerce, giving everyone in the world the ability to buy and sell anywhere. And I was at this bar in New York. I was sleeping on couches because we were just trying to sell the dream to these merchants. And I met this guy at this bar, and he had just learned about Bitcoin, and he was obsessed. He had gotten that bug, and everything that he was saying with Bitcoin of how it was the only asset that everyone in the world could own and trade and use. It just clicked with me, and it was everything that I had been building or had wanted to build, and it was already native to Bitcoin. So went down the rabbit hole then. I talked to my team, my co-founder Matt. He was a co-founder of the last company, co-founder of Lolli as well, and we just went down this rabbit hole together. We had our first experience, I think, in bringing it to enterprise. We had all these merchant partnerships with our last company, and we brought it to them as a way to get users to pay with Bitcoin at all these merchants. And one of the things we realized is that people didn't want to pay with Bitcoin. They didn't want to spend their Bitcoin because number go up. And then the merchants didn't want to accept Bitcoin because remittance networks weren't set up. So they didn't want to have to balance it on their treasury. Now, clearly it would have been advantageous for them to have accepted and held Bitcoin in their reserve in the treasury. But at the time, it was just extremely cumbersome, and there just wasn't a really good fit for Bitcoin payments. So we learned early on that Bitcoin wasn't really going to achieve mainstream adoption through payments, and that there needed to be something else. So fast forward quite a bit, we ended up getting acquired by one of our biggest customers, which was Rakuten. And Rakuten is, for those of you who don't know, is the biggest cashback company in the U.S. and many parts of the world. So we got to learn a lot about the cashback reward space. We got to meet all these customers. We got to work with over 3,000 merchants there alone, and we really got to see the needs of these merchants and see how they wanted to attract customers through rewards, and how the rewards business is an incredible way to get people excited and build loyalty to something. So when we parted ways with Rakuten, we went to the drawing board and we're like, how do we get mainstream Bitcoin adoption? And so we took a very similar model, which was the Rakuten cashback business model, and we basically rebuilt it. So we launched Lolli a little over 2 years ago, and have had a lot of success in making Bitcoin more accessible to everybody through rewards, and using Bitcoin with what it's really good at right now, which is being a savings technology. So launched 2.5 years ago. We have over 1,000 merchants on the platform, hundreds of thousands of users, and people have earned quite a bit of Bitcoin so far. And then because the price is really 4x since we launched, a lot of our rewards are basically teaching these users that were ex-Rakuten users, ex-cashback users, that we're 4 times better, 3 times better, 2 times better than these cashback companies. So over time, we can start to teach people about the fundamentals of Bitcoin by piquing their interest in price.
Love it, man. And speaking of price, what are you thinking right now? It's like I said, it's a moment to reflect, and what does all-time high mean to you? And the Lolli customers, I assume you're gonna try to hype up all of the customers with this new milestone.
it's good for both sides of our business. A lot of the merchants that we're holding out are now it's piquing their interest. They're saying, "Oh, you were right." You know, when I pitched them when it was like, you know, it dropped down to 4K, you know, they were like a little bit wary of like, is it going to keep going down? But as Bitcoin is now reaching all-time highs, we just announced Kroger, which was a huge partnership for us, and then we're about to announce a huge merchant right before the holidays that I think is going to drive a lot more Bitcoin adoption. So the merchants love it, and then our users love it as well. I mean, if you were a Bitcoiner, Bitcoiners love getting Bitcoin for free. You know, it's way more than any of these like browsers or faucets. I mean, people people are earning more than 2 Bitcoin on our platform. Like, there are some serious stackers on the platform, and
that's amazing.
And like, you can earn a lot of money, and like a lot of people. I just saw that note. Give us an exclusive. Yeah, have me on next week when we announce. That would be great.
Right.
So yeah, the users are like loving it. I mean, if you're getting, let's just say you earn like $500 a year in rewards, and that $500 is now $2,000. Like, it's not an insignificant amount of money, and it works on top of your debit card, on top of your credit card. So it's all you know, incremental revenue, cash that you're getting, cash back that you're getting. And so, yeah, our users are pretty happy, to say the least.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I 100% agree with you, obviously, that Bitcoin is a savings technology, and just getting as many people to start stacking and, you know, watching the number go up. And, you know, that's what triggers, you know, the interest in Bitcoin, and start asking the questions like, you know, what is money, and diving down the rabbit hole. So it's going to be fun to watch that happen, and to do our part as Bitcoiners, try to educate all of these people who are coming in as well. And we'll come back to education in a minute. I want to ask Alex about that. But before we do, I'm really curious about Lightning Pool. This is the big announcement from Lightning Labs. Came out earlier this month. Sounds super interesting. It sounds like another big kind of milestone for Lightning Network, for Bitcoin as a money, you know, in terms of establishing a yield curve, et cetera. So Des, can you talk to us about what Lightning Pool is, how it works, and, you know, what you think it means for Bitcoin and the network?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pool, and we obviously got lucky a little bit, and, you know, a lot of people are really pumped about Pool because of the whole DeFi craze. Like, I mean, this is real DeFi. This is, you know, what some folks are calling Li-Fi, Lightning Finance. So we're obviously very excited, you know, that this is getting a lot of traction. But, you know, for me, the thing that why this is so interesting is it really was born out of like a business need. I mean, if you remember the Lightning Torch, like, way back when, I mean, just passing along those few sats was like such a pain because of just the challenges with acquiring inbound liquidity. And, you know, that was just like a very small example. So if you kind of look at, you know, places, these bigger companies that are, you know, getting way more customers and just doing like legitimate business on the Lightning Network, inbound liquidity is a very, very serious, you know, business need. So developing a marketplace for these businesses and node operators to buy and sell access to liquidity is really kind of unique. You know, I am less kind of finance focused. I know, like, Ryan Gentry, who's our BD lead, is you know, amazing at kind of evangelizing really like the whole Li-Fi component to it. But, you know, in my role at the company, I'm just like very interested to see this like huge business problem that it solves. So it's not only just like opening up the door for like people to start earning like real yield on their Bitcoin, but it's also, you know, solving that problem of like, you know, how can you know, people who have excess liquidity sell that and actually make use of their Bitcoin, but also, you know, these businesses who need liquidity to, you know, balance their channels and serve their customers. Like, this is really solving a serious business need, and they're willing to, you know, to pay a price for that as well. So, you know, I think it's like a really interesting, like, financial instrument that we've kind of created and put out there. But it's also, you know, I think it, long term will have like significant impacts of like really kind of firming up the foundation for companies to operate efficiently on the Lightning Network.
Yeah, it seems like a very instrumental development to me for the network. And we were talking about how Bitcoin functions as a store of value right now. That's its primary use case, right? But we're building out Lightning Network, and I think it's extremely important to continue to build out Bitcoin as a payments technology as well, right? It may not be used widely as a payments technology yet, but it's extremely important. I mean, if we had centralized payment systems, those will always exist. They're always going to be super, very efficient. People can opt into them, but it's going to be absolutely crucial for privacy, for freedom, to have the ability to opt out of like the payments panopticon, because the more payments go digital, the more basically we're heading toward a cashless society. That's just the easiest way to surveil basically everyone on the planet. So I think it's super important that Lightning Network continues to be developed. What do you think about the state of the Lightning Network right now, Des? Like, what are you excited about besides Lightning Pool, and how do you feel about the future of Lightning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super bullish on Lightning. Obviously, it would be strange if I wasn't. But there's just been so much progress, and kudos to our team. Like, I don't need to like pat ourselves on the back, but we've pushed out so many amazing updates this year. Wumbo, so lifting the limits on sending Bitcoin, has been a huge accomplishment. Also, just kind of signaling the maturity of the network. Before it was, everybody be grateful. This is new and experimental technology, but now, lifting those limits kind of signals, hey guys, like this is a true, like legitimate payment network. So I think the last year has been extremely powerful for the Lightning Network, and that's kind of evidenced by just kind of the growth of the ecosystem. I remember last year in Berlin, we hosted the Lightning Conference, and I had hosted kind of like a little roundtable to kind of talk to some of our customers. And it was a very small group because, there weren't that many folks who were building on the network. But now, I mean, just like pulling together a list of companies who are building on Lightning, and it's well over like 120 companies. It's just incredible. And it's not only just like little people who are tinkering and building things as, a side hobby. This is people who are building legitimate companies who are securing significant venture capital. So it's really incredible to, see not only just like network, like the general use grow, but also like the businesses who are, who Lightning is becoming integral to their day-to-day operations. But, I think something that's like very unique, and just to Bitcoin in general, something that seems to be growing is just, Bitcoin, like you said, used to be this, and it still is this thing to, avoid surveillance. It's very much this kind of privacy protecting technology, but, that was great to get off the grid and, get away from, centralized entities, but there wasn't like, it was great. Now I have my Bitcoin, but what do I do? And now we have places like Lolli, which I absolutely love Lolli, which I think Alex knows, because I try and tweet a lot as like, if I can, but you can actually use your Bitcoin for real things. Like, I'm renovating my house. I literally bought a toilet and earned Bitcoin on Lolli. So that's one of my favorite things to like add in like investor updates. It's like, it's not just feeding chickens anymore. You can actually buy toilets on Lolli. So I think that's pretty powerful.
That is powerful. no shitcoins needed for the toilet.
Yeah.
That's yeah, exactly. I was going to make the joke. Alex got there first. So yeah, Alex, what do you think about Lightning, man? Does Lightning figure into Lolli at some point? And just in general, what are your thoughts about Lightning?
Yeah, I mean, I love it as just a personal user, and then also like our whole team sends like Lightning transactions all the time. I have art that I've bought with like using Lightning. I almost think it's like irresponsible to not use it, just because there's a lot of things when I spend using Bitcoin that I've like regretted either the fees or something. So I think like Lightning is making this like whole new world of Bitcoin possible, which is using it as a medium of exchange. And I sort of take this like long view where there's functionality that has to be built now, which is more about core, which is like as a savings technology, and that's where Bitcoin is at today. But in order for Bitcoin to be more widely adopted in the future, I think we need things like Lightning. It's I think it's my favorite project other than Lolli. As far as like getting Bitcoin to the masses, we haven't we've huge fans of Lightning Labs and Lightning as a whole, and have been talking and about working together since we launched. And I think that on our end, there aren't a lot of people that are like moving Bitcoin off. We have so many people that are brand new to Bitcoin that a lot of them don't like. They just want to hold it, and so like 95% of our users just want to use Lolli as a custodial account. Similar to Swan, similar to Coinbase, Kraken, what have you. And so when more of our users start to learn more about Bitcoin and want to move their Bitcoin to cold storage wallets or to their own personal keys or whatever, I think that Lightning is going to be way more important. And then I think as we start to transition over the next few years into more of a payment rails, there's just a clear fit to use Lightning for our merchants. So one of the things that we've set out to do is be the most active wallet in between the merchants and the consumer, and to build these very strong relationships with our merchants. And so because we just passed 1,000 merchants, and because as I mentioned earlier, all these merchants are getting really excited about Bitcoin. They're like asking for more information. They want to learn more about it. I'm sending them the Bitcoin standard. We're trying to educate as well as clearly make them money as well. And so I kind of see this future where we go to them and we say, hey, look, you've loved us for rewards. You've loved us for attracting new users. Bitcoin is way less volatile. Speaking in the future, Bitcoin's way less volatile. What do you think about accepting Bitcoin as a medium of exchange? Because there are users that do want to spend it, and there are so many advantages that it has over credit cards, over debit cards, especially when you're considering Lightning. So I do think that we'll be a huge player in the payment space, and we'll be leveraging technology like Lightning in order to facilitate that.
That's awesome. We got a question for Alex from Pardis, our friend at BTC Pins. Breck, you want to throw that up on the screen? Not sure what he's talking about, but I assume Alex will know. Alex, what was the Los Angeles thing Lolli was teasing a few weeks ago?
Oh, it's coming soon. It has to do with cannabis. I'll say that much. So we've got some fun stuff coming up there. But we're announcing, this is a partnership we're announcing with one of our merchants that has not launched yet, but we will be announcing soon before the holidays if any cannabis users are interested in Bitcoin and cannabis.
There you
Stay
go.
tuned.
There you go, Pardis. That sounds very interesting indeed. Des, let's move back to you. I know you're a big fan of Lightning Gaming, so let's talk about Lightning Gaming for a bit. That's fine. I mean, go. Let's hear it. I mean, the gaming and the esport industry is massive. It's growing insanely quick, insanely fast. So let's talk about how it's being used, how Lightning and Bitcoin is being used. Some of your favorite use cases, some of your favorite games that are using Lightning.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my favorite topic to talk about. I'm involved with something that's called McGox, which is a monthly esports tournament that we put on, and it was kind of we kind of came up with it in the face of COVID. I had last year hosted at the Lightning Conference, hosted a Bitcoin and Lightning gaming panel. Had some interesting folks on there. So I was kind of working to, it's my favorite use case. So I was kind of working to promote it at some upcoming events. And when those were canceled, I was randomly on a call with Simon Cowell from Zebedee. And we're like, well, we shouldn't let that be canceled. Like, let's just continue it online. So we actually created McGox that it's a monthly event that we host an esports tournament that features one or more Bitcoin and Lightning games. So I mean, they're all on Lightning, obviously, with the small SAP prizes, but yeah, we consider it Bitcoin gaming. But yeah, this is really my favorite use case because for me, like I said earlier, people love earning Bitcoin. They love stacking sats. You know, it's hard to convince someone who's not already into Bitcoin for all the reasons that we're here, to just go and spend their hard-earned money on Bitcoin, something they can't see, something they can't feel, something that they don't see the direct results of. So if there's ways for folks to just earn Bitcoin by doing things that they love or by doing things that they're already doing, like with Lolli, that's just an incredible opportunity to onboard people. So for gaming, to me, it's just like a no-brainer use case because people come never having used Bitcoin before, never having cared about it, but they're interested in the game. Like I know Bitcoin Bounty Hunt by Donner Lab, which is kind of a first-person shooter type of game. A lot of their early users were people who'd never used Bitcoin before, but were really interested in just playing the game and winning some type of value. And they came and, you know, they had to download a wallet and cash out their winnings. And so they were basically made they were made into Bitcoiners through gaming. So to me, that's how I got interested, coming from a business angle, is like, how can we onboard massive amounts of people? Obviously, like these younger generations, gaming and esports is really their social platform. It's what Facebook was, or like Zanga or MySpace was to some of us back in the day. You know, Fortnite is that social platform for them. And they're obviously younger, so they're more likely to adopt kind of these newer technologies. So for me, it just kind of marries like those two factors. And I just think it's super interesting. Something with the McGox stuff that we've been thinking about is like, do we call it Bitcoin or Lightning gaming? And it's like, is Lightning actually, like, when does Lightning just become Bitcoin? Like, when do we stop saying like these are Lightning transactions and it's just all Bitcoin? So I think it's interesting that, you know, are we going to start completely bypassing the people onboarding to Bitcoin first, going to Cash App and, you know, buying their first Bitcoin? Or are we just going to have people earning directly and onboarding directly to Lightning? So I think there's some like really interesting new ways for creating adoption through things like gaming.
That's awesome. Thantos in the chat, the Donner Labs game that Des just mentioned was the reason I got into the Lightning Network. No joke. So there you go. I mean, that's the story. And this, you know, Lolli and Lightning Gaming are both ways like that are going to bring people into Bitcoin who have no idea, have never heard about it before. And I can see like the gaming use case, you know, just to be absolutely massive. Like you said, like it's, you know, with the younger generations, like gaming is how it is social life. It's the internet social world. And you see some of these like esports events are larger than the Super Bowl. You know, you just get like hundreds of millions of viewers online and filling like literal stadiums. And you can imagine, you know, these, and most of them are like first person shooter type games that people play, you know, using, instead of like some kind of scoring system, you know, it's all sets. And imagine like, you know, people on Twitch, these gamers on Twitch who have massive audiences starting to promote, you know, games that are using Bitcoin as rewards, sats rewards. And it just takes off from there. So it's just like another avenue that you can, I mean, there's just so many of them. Alex, are you a gamer? Have you tried out some of this stuff?
I wouldn't consider myself a gamer. I enjoy games. I love studying them. I'm a huge believer in Lightning, like Lightning strategy with gaming. It's one of those things where, like, you know, when I look on more of like from a macroeconomic viewpoint, I look at like markets where you're not like constrained by a country. You're not constrained by like fiat rails, as I like to say. And gaming is one of those really interesting things where, because anybody can go play a game as long as you have a browser, that, you know, I look for things that can connect everybody. If you like if everyone needs a PlayStation 5 or if everyone needs an Xbox, it creates this like inaccessibility. But there's 3 billion people with a cell phone, 2.5 billion people or more that play video games, across the entire world. When I think about things that are going to connect people, it's there's or connect the world through commerce. Everybody is going to shop online using their phone. Everybody is going to play games using their phone. So gaming is this very interesting mechanism because it doesn't need commerce for it to work, but every new game has this commerce layer. And something that we kind of thought about when we were building Lolli is what is something that someone already knows, and it's rewards. People love getting rewards. People shop already, and rewards are going to just be commonplace for every purchase you make. You're just expecting that you're going to get some sort of rewards. And part of what we saw at Rakuten was that Rakuten they were super fiat constrained. They had to sell in the US, they had to do rewards in the US, and every time that they broke into a new country, it cost them so much money in order to distribute cash to people, their native currency to people. And so it broke down. And so really they could only really be like prominent in like the US and in Japan. Where we see where we see scale is that we don't have to work with these with these banks and everywhere we go. We can just drop Bitcoin into people's wallets anywhere in the world. And gaming is extremely similar. Like V-Bucks has no fiat constraints. I could be in Bangladesh playing Fortnite and getting V-Bucks. There's no reason that a future gaming studio that is passionate about Bitcoin couldn't use Lightning Labs to create a Bitcoin Lightning integration to make Lightning the standard and have this sort of like abstraction from of Bitcoin and a real currency that everybody can move and use in the real world and in the virtual world.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting to think about it as another, just like I said, I mean, I have thought about Lightning in gaming, but I'm getting super bullish on it right now as a way to bring in new users over the next few years, as people like kids get involved with it. I mean, they're going to get it right away. Like you said, with the V-Bucks, like they understand the value of these digital monies, right? And sats are just like the real deal, it's like, oh, this is like V-Bucks for real, like it's being used globally as money already. And I don't, everywhere. I don't have to, cash in V-Bucks for dollars or whatever. So might as well just straight to it, right?
And another point too, and what we've seen, and I think gaming and commerce have very similar parallels. So what we've seen in the commerce world is like this transition from points to cash back. So points being like sort of this like fake, highly centralized currency. A lot of people don't know this, but point systems are basically arbitrages on the consumer. You're basically saying this point is worth X amount of money. It can change. It buys you different amounts of things. And so it's always changing depending on what the point company tells you that their point is worth. It's basically this like centralized, manipulated currency. And so that's why Rakuten has been so successful and why I think Lolli will be successful, because you how much $1 is worth. There's some truth to that. When I'm going in the gaming world and getting V-Bucks, or I could go play a game that is like, just as fun and similar, and I can go have real money for that. I think it's the natural transition. People are always looking for the truth. They're always looking for, what is real. And I think cashback was sort of a trend in shopping. And this next trend in gaming will be this digital currency that was made for the internet. And that is Bitcoin, that is Lightning.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Des.
I was just gonna say, it's just, we created McGox just like to do for a couple of months, like while we thought the pandemic, obviously that's lasted a little bit longer than we anticipated, but it's been crazy. Like the first event we had like 100 streamers. Now the last event we had over like 4,400 streamers, 15,000 transactions. It's just crazy to see. People are so pumped about it. People are pumped about winning 5 sats. It's like sats are sats, and they don't care how few it is. And with these small amounts, everybody can get paid out. Like every place can get paid out, rather than just having the top 3 people. So there's like a lot of like interesting things we can play with in these virtual worlds. I actually have like a book about virtual economies on my desk. So like design and analysis. So yeah, I mean, Alex, I feel like we could chat about this for like.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's get into it. First of all, let's talk more about. I love the idea of the virtual economy. So I want to talk more about that, and like the specifics of what you're learning and studying. But first, what was the question? What, like, are there any new games coming out right now that are like on the horizon that are coming? That you can talk about, like, that you're excited about, that are using Lightning?
Oh wow. I mean, so there's so much. I mean, Donner Labs Bitcoin Bounty Hunt. We're having Mint Gox on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern for folks who want to join. There's 5 million SAT prize, so I think that's like over $1,000 at this point that we're giving away. And so we're featuring Bitcoin Bounty Hunt. So that's like the whole first-person shooter kind of battle royale type game. So that will be going on. And then there's lots of like fun side games that you can play. You can feed the Poyo Feed chickens. Like last time we fed the Poyo Feed chickens over 100 times. So they're like obese now, which is, great. And then there's Satoshi's Games is, doing really incredible stuff. Like they have like a pretty much like very similar to Fortnite type game. And they have like a whole in-game skins. Right now they're doing NFTs for those skins, but they're like exploring some cool stuff with LSATs, which I'm excited about. But they have Satoshi's Games has Light Night, that's what it's called. And then also Thunder Games has 2 games in the App Store. One is Turbo 84, which is like a synthwave racer type game. And then also Bitcoin Bounce, where you kind of just bounce along these platforms and collect tickets, which you can cash out for Satoshis. So Jack has been like kind of leading the way. I'm battling the App Store with keeping his games there, and like the whole walled garden problem. And then Zebedee is, they're really focused on their SDK, and they just came out with an amazing gaming wallet that uses static QR codes that are really great for streamers. Like if you want your viewers to tip you, that you can just add your static QR code to your Twitch page. So we're actually seeing a lot of folks starting to do that. It's really cool. And they have Bitcoin Rally, which is one that we do a big esports turnaround, which is like Mario Kart. So that's a really cool game. So yeah, there's some new folks who are coming out with games. There's one that kind of seems like a Fall Guys type game. So I'm excited to see what people start putting out next year, especially with like Zebedee making it super easy with their SDK. Like I think we'll start seeing more and more game developers come to this space and start putting out these like really neat indie games now that it's easy. And also the price of Bitcoin obviously attracts folks to kind of come our way.
This is amazing. I had no idea. Like this, you're speaking my language. I got to get in some of these games. Like when you were talking, I love racing games. You're talking about this, like that Turbo game and Mario Kart. Like Mario Kart, come on, man! Like I spent so much time playing Mario Kart when I was a kid. If I can play Mario Kart and earn sats, that's gonna happen. This week for sure, as soon as possible.
Sundays, join us.
I will be there. That's awesome. So what is this? About virtual economies that you're talking about? Like, what are you learning? Alex, do you want to lead off with this, or do you want to give Des a chance to lead off, and you can follow up?
I'll follow up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tell us what's in this book, and what are you studying about?
Well, I mean, I haven't gotten very far, to be honest. Like, it's been pretty busy with like the pool launch and everything else, but I don't know. So I just like diving into this book, but we're kind of experimenting with one, like, what happens when you break down the fourth wall between viewers and people who are actually playing the game. Like in Mint Gox, we have a dashboard where you can actually like stream sats to drop power-ups in the Mario Kart-like game, or you can actually just put sats as bounty on people's heads that you want killed in this first-person. So like that becomes like very, very interesting. But the one thing that I'm kind of focused on right now is, how do we experiment with kind of these circular advertising models? For instance, we have worked with Bitrefill recently, and we've developed this kind of cool like pit stop, bit refill station, we call it, and people can drive their carts in this Mario Kart game through the station, and they get 10 Satoshis, and they need to decide, okay, do I take these 10 Satoshis and use them as projectiles against my opponents so I can obviously place higher and hopefully get the larger prize? Or do I just stack those Satoshis and then I can just have them, keep them, and then cash out at the end of the game? And hopefully, like, we obviously link like to bit refill, and at some point we want people to be able to use those Satoshis in game to buy like actual physical, like real world, like for bit refill, actual gift cards in the game. So we're kind of experimenting, like, how do we, lower the customer acquisition cost, and, make advertising in these esports, like these Bitcoin esports tournaments, more lucrative to sponsors and advertisers. So that's what, like, I'm kind of experimenting with. That's what I'm charged with. But, Christian Moss, who's Mandelduck on Twitter and also at Zebedee, is kind of like playing with these. Okay, like, how do we use virtual economies to make people who are playing these games like really think, and like there's just so much more like behavioral, like you can do so much more with people's behavior in game, like when you have like real currencies in them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alex, any thoughts?
Yeah, same page. I think it's really cool, this like intersection of virtual and in person. And it's all converging right now. So I think it's going to get really exciting too when like you can use the same currency in a virtual world that you can in the real world, and Bitcoin is a part of that. I think the thing that we being in the U.S. have a difficult time seeing is what that international market is doing. And when Des was saying was talking about all this like traction and interesting usage, like we're probably not going to see it in the US to start. People play games everywhere. And so you immediately have a market of 4 billion people with an internet connection. And a lot of those people, they don't have to speak English, or they don't have to, be in the US in order to adopt Bitcoin, but they're another user, they're using Bitcoin. And so the more and more connected the entire world is through these like commerce applications, the better, I think, the more Bitcoin adoption there will be. And when I look at like the way I look at Lolli is like we're a startup. Most of the times when you build a company, you have to be focused on your country. But being as with Swan too, we have these fiat constraints because of FinCEN and compliance issues and all this sort of requirements. But with Bitcoin, it's like internationally scalable. So the market is just going to be way bigger, and it's just going to attract anybody with an internet connection. It's not just, you're not just going after 300 million Americans that can potentially download this app. You're going after 4 billion people. And in building a company, it's like entrepreneurs that are want scale. Why would you build on top of fiat when you could build on top of Bitcoin and reach way more people? It just becomes a very simple like behavioral incentive mechanism. Like, I want to build a $100 billion company. I don't want to go build a $100 million company. So more and more people are going to build on Bitcoin. More game developers are going to build on Bitcoin. More commerce developers are going to build on Bitcoin. Like, it's just inevitable because it's a global market.
Bullish. It's beautiful.
Very bullish.
I love the vision. Something you mentioned earlier, Alex, about using Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset for businesses. And this is like a narrative. Well, it's not just a narrative, it's a actual phenomenon that we're seeing occur now and roll out, of course, kind of led as a trend setting by Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, just like going all in, which was amazing. And Square kind of dipping their toes in and making a $50 million buy to put on their reserve, treasury reserve, little casual $50 million buy. And it's, so I feel like we kind of like missed this one. We were all talking about through the bear market and stuff like, institutional adoption and national, like, reserve currency adoption. And like, I didn't hear a lot of chatter about the corporate reserve currency, but of course it makes absolutely perfect sense in retrospect. How big of a deal is this to you? I mean, it seems like something that's going to drive a narrative that will drive this cycle.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, and I don't think enough people talk about. I mean, people get bullish of like, oh, this billionaire's buying Bitcoin, or this massive public company is buying Bitcoin. But it's actually, I think it's bigger than that. And the story that I don't hear told is these companies now, more so than ever in the entire history of the world, are bigger than countries. Like they're on an international scale from day one, and so. If your country is not going to, be smart enough to have a inflationary currency, then you have to. And if you're holding, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in reserves, like, if you're doing treasury management and you have an inflationary, currency that's losing 2%, or, if we're about to go through a recession and, we might, have higher inflation and we go up to 4 or 5%, like your cash is not as valuable as it was. So you have to make this decision. Do you buy up a bunch of companies that are profitable and so you can, make more money or are going to be, add value to your company? That's one option. Or, do you buy something that is going to hold in value? A lot of companies can't hold gold. Like I could never see Square buying gold, building their own Fort Knox and holding that gold. Like it just doesn't make sense, right? And so maybe you could, rationalize buying, gold and having like ownership of it, but there's really nothing better than Bitcoin right now to hold your value and to go up. So I think we're going to see this be this like overwhelming trend of companies that are operating on international scale that want to protect their cash reserves and sort of fight inflation are going to adopt Bitcoin as a reserve currency.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely bullish trend. It makes perfect sense. Does Lolli hold any Bitcoin in the corporate treasury?
No comment. It's OPSEC.
Fair. Des, how do you feel about this trend and just the role of Bitcoin? I mean, this fiat economic, like just accelerated fiat time that we're in now. These pandemic shutdowns really, and the subsequent like money printing that's happened, which has been like shocking and is probably going to continue even more in the next year or so. Do you see more corporations like coming in because of that, devaluation? Like Michael Saylor said, if you count like assets, the asset inflation rate, which is actually more like 15 or 20%, it's like the melting ice cube is going really fast. So what do you think about this trend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like a mixed bag of emotions around it. Because one, it's like, okay, I mean, it's great. I mean, all these like institutions, jumping into Bitcoin is great for Bitcoin. It's, it's great for exposure, but I'm also like kind of salty because it's like, okay, are they like the same wealthy old white dudes just going to get more wealthy? And like, that feels like, not great to me. But, that's like the nature of Bitcoin, right? It's for everyone. So ultimately I have to be okay with that. And I'm working through that. But like, yeah, no joke, like jokes aside, I do like all of this makes me nervous. Like this high prices, if it comes crashing down again. I mean, I remember the last time like it started crashing down, I was in Deer Valley and I was skiing and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be Bitcoin rich. Yay. And then it just all started crashing. And I was like, oh my God, I need to return this jacket immediately. I'm like very cautious about how excited I get about these things, because I mean, what's the narrative? If we crash back down to $3,000, like what does that do? To Bitcoin's marketing, which is just like the naturally created narrative. So I'm just very cautious. I mean, cautiously optimistic. So I tend to just kind of stay out of it, be quiet and just watch and just, do my job, build as much as possible, and not focus on the price and just kind of let things happen. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, to answer the question, Bitcoin, like more and more people, like these big players getting into Bitcoin is ultimately a good thing. But only time will tell.
It's gonna change our little Bitcoin. I get it too. Like it's our little community building on Bitcoin. This cycle may be the end, the end of that feeling anyway. But hey, it's got to grow up at some point, and it'll be like, it's like what Bitcoin's always 11 years old, coming close to 12. So it's like a really precocious, young person right now with big dreams. And we kind of, I know I have that sort of parental kind of feeling about Bitcoin too, like it's something that we kind of discovered early, and like we're trying to shepherd to fruition together in the best way possible. And yeah, and as it grows up, it's sort of like leaving the nest, we might all have empty nest syndrome. I think it's a good thing. Ultimately, I mean, it's inevitable. So it'll be, whatever happens, it's always interesting in every bull market and bear market for that matter. So Bitcoin's nature is fundamentally different than fiat. Obviously, it's deflationary money versus inflationary money. It's its supply is set in stone. It can't be altered by humans or controlled, and so it's absolutely predictable on what the value of Bitcoin will be in terms of in terms of how many Bitcoin will be minted at any given time, and the issuance rate and all that. And this seems to have like this difference between kind of short-term preference money and long-term preference money seems to have an effect on behavior, kind of speaking earlier about like how virtual economies can be set up to really affect behavior. This is that on like a global level. Each individual and then collectively will have an impact on society. So I'd love to hear you guys talk about like how you personally experienced Bitcoin. Like, has that kind of shift to long-term thinking affected you personally? And and then we can talk about the future for society and civilization. But I'd love to start with just personally, what has it changed your behavior in any way? Alex, you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love the meme. The best memes are the ones that are true, and they sort of simplify a message that is like, everybody should understand, and they're educational in nature. And I think one of the best memes is, fiat is your checking account, Bitcoin is your savings account. And I think it encapsulates how my view of Bitcoin, and I think how most people's view of Bitcoin that have been in it for a while, how they think about it. It's, Bitcoin is deflationary, fiat inflationary, and so you over time you sort of see it as like you're holding this amount of money in your savings account, your Bitcoin account, and then your checking account becomes like what you're spending. And I think that that's a good framework, a way to think about it. It is like it's not all too dissimilar from how a lot of people treat stocks or how people treat their savings account. Like the whole thing that people have been using for 50 years, which is like they have your savings account. Like, I don't want to dip into my savings account. That's for the future. That's how people, I think, should for now think about Bitcoin. I do think that there's plenty of places in the world that Bitcoin is already better than their fiat currency, and they can start to think about Bitcoin being their medium of exchange. They can think about Bitcoin being their primary currency, because Bitcoin has already surpassed the value of their fiat currency. And the more countries like Venezuela that sort of experience this hyperinflation, and if you have sort of the savings account in Bitcoin and your checking account in this hyperinflationary currency, over time, that's going to happen over the next couple of decades. That's going to happen 100 times to 100 different countries, to 100 different currencies. And every single time, there's always going to be access to this like savings account. So it's almost like this mimetic nature of Bitcoin being a savings technology that will spread. The people that learn to use Bitcoin as their savings account will have more money and access to this global currency, whereas people who rely on fiat and the sort of the downsides of fiat, the inflationary nature of fiat, they will clearly not be in as good a position as people who do look at Bitcoin as savings. So that's my viewpoint. I think I try to oftentimes look at things not through my own viewpoint, but through others. And when I place myself in different places of the world, how I would view Bitcoin, I view it differently. Clearly, if we're being honest, in the US, there are things that are difficult to, comprehend. Like, FDIC insurance is very real. Like, there is, I know that up to $250,000, I have all my money insured by a bank. That is very difficult to compete with, especially because a lot of people have not had these like bad experiences with, with that. It's like, it sure, it sucks, I'm sure, if you're hacked or something like that. But the fact that you are insured is something that's very difficult to go up against in the US. But FDIC insurance is in the US alone, and many parts of the world do not have that. And so Bitcoin probably is the equivalent of FDIC insurance because you truly own your money and you control the security of your own money, and you can be your own bank and savings technology by using Bitcoin. So kind of like I was saying with like, Lightning games, Bitcoin games, I think we're going to see the same thing with like Bitcoin as a savings technology. It has advantages because it is a global insurance policy for your money.
Yeah. Des, has Bitcoin changed your life personally at all?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Bitcoin is my life, so
yeah. Same.
A lot.
It just like slowly takes over all of your spare brain cycles and then spare minutes until you're doing it full time.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, what Alex mentioned really resonates with me, but something that he pointed out that's I find so interesting is like, the FDIC stuff is like, I'm so full Bitcoin maximalist, it's not funny, but like I still see value in things like that. And when we're creating products and, when I just like think about, folks who are using Lightning, I try to like step into, their global view is very interesting, but, I try and step into like their safe space. I think about, my mom or whoever, it's like using Bitcoin doesn't feel safe. And I think that's like something that we don't ever talk about or address in this community. As I mentioned, it's so insular, and if you don't get it, you don't lean in all the way. We are just like, okay, you don't get it, you're not worth our time. But it's like, a lot of people want that type of security, that like having 250,000 of your dollars are insured, like that makes you feel safe. So it's like, we don't necessarily have that with Bitcoin, and I think we're getting further down the line, but like, I don't think that we're anywhere where it's like, okay, this is something that everybody's going to use. I think, having the Cash App is great because people use that for other things. So like, okay, well, my money feels safe there. Like when I'm just using fiat money, like if I buy Bitcoin there, it's at least going to feel safe. So, I think, and maybe I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but like, that's just something that like I'm constantly thinking about is, I love Bitcoin because I can control it and nobody else has control over it. But like at the same time, like someone could just, hold me at gunpoint and be like, okay, I'm going to shoot you unless you give me your private keys. And it's like, okay, well, I'm ultimately going to do that. But, so that's like something I'm constantly thinking about is like, where is the fine line between, empowering people, but also like giving them the security that will lead to them ultimately adopting the technology. And it's a very fine balance, and it's not going to be the same for every company or the same app. Like obviously Lightning Labs, we're all about self-custodying your own funds, but there's things like the Zebedee wallet, which is like the gaming wallet, where it's like it's people's first wallet. Like when I first started, it would have been, I probably should have had somebody else like holding my funds. Like I didn't know what I was doing. So I think there just needs to be like safe spaces or better on-ramps for people who are coming into this space. Yeah,
I hear that. Let's wrap up with, what you think it means for the world. Like let's say Bitcoin decades from now, and it's, however you think it will play out. Like, how do you think it'll change human society? Alex?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's going to just change the psychology of money. I think one of the most interesting aspects of Bitcoin is that people never really questioned their money before. I think that's like one fun thing that I was doing, I think like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to build next. And I really wanted to, like, I knew about Bitcoin, and my family, friends knew about Bitcoin because, I had shared it with them. But I really I wanted to tap into the psychology of what people's viewpoint of Bitcoin was. And so one of the questions that I often ask people that were new to Bitcoin was, what is money? Like, do you understand money? And most people, when asked about money, they didn't know what it is. They didn't understand what it was backed by. They never even thought about it, because our entire lives, from when you're a kid and you're getting an allowance, and it's almost like from the time we're born, we're told that $1 is $1, and you don't even think about it. It's like, it's just a part of our society. And so for the first time ever, we're now being faced with this opportunity where we have an option of what our money is and how we personally define our money. And so what that's forcing is this thing, and price is, a big, it is sort of a big attraction point to it, because it's like, okay, all these people are making all this money because Bitcoin keeps going up, Bitcoin's in the news, and our natural tendency as humans and survivors and people who are looking out for our wallet are why are these people making money? If you own Bitcoin, why am I making money? What is this? And so the more and more you look into Bitcoin, the more and more you realize you learn about money. And I was an econ major. I studied money for 4 years, and I still, when I had learned about Bitcoin after that, I realized how little I knew about money in general. So if Bitcoin is this forcing function for us to really redefine money and to ultimately find the truth of money, what is the best money, that's the challenge that Bitcoin has. But it's also what Bitcoin is introducing is it's forcing society to question the definition of money.
100%. You want to add on to that, Des? Anything?
I mean, that is powerful. I mean, I didn't understand money really.
Oh yeah, same.
I mean, I recently read that debt book with Amanda Fabiano, and I had a book club, and we read that giant debt book, and I was like, oh wow, and I said a little bit. I was like, damn, we are totally fucked. Sorry, language, but
all good.
We're not, because there's Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, I think right now Bitcoin introduces optionality, but I think the further down the line we get, it's just going to become a forcing function. I think people, even though people don't understand how money really works, I think they're starting to question. At least here in the States, I think people are starting to question, who's controlling this? Why are they doing these things? Why do we not have any real say over our own money? I'm from the Midwest, and obviously the whole financial crisis hit the Midwest really hard, and I think people started to be like, this isn't right. I mean, obviously they started questioning this, but now during this kind of time of huge kind of socioeconomic turmoil, I think people are starting to think again. I mean, obviously we haven't seen the full effects of the pandemic long term yet, but I mean, I think people are starting to question again, is okay, here we go again. The Fed is just printing money. What does this really mean? So I think, ultimately people are going to start questioning, and they're going to see these effects happen twice in one lifetime, and people don't generally make the same mistake 3 times. And so they're just going to ultimately be pushed to Bitcoin. But at that point, it's going to be a forcing function. But right now, it's an optionality, and luckily, right now, people are seeing the price, and hopefully will come over. But long term, I don't see Bitcoin as an option. Bitcoin will be the only option in the future.
Did anyone else notice this whole time over Des's shoulder a pair of bullhorns? Awesome. Brecky, go full screen. There it is.
Computer enhanced.
I've been looking at them this whole time, feeling extra
Bullish.
bullish. Yeah.
We moved and like I don't like we're doing renovations, so I just needed to hang things up so I could like get everything out of the way and out of boxes. So it's just stuff on the walls everywhere. So yes, lots of animals. Like there's a bear head over there.
Nice.
Yeah, you just got to put the bear head away.
Yeah,
And the bull horns.
I had, the price is going down, so
Yeah.
I jinx us.
I've got a couple. Exactly. I've got a couple videos lined up here. One is the Mint Gox video that Des posted here in the chat for us to watch. So let's go ahead and yep, here we go. Let's watch this and get fired up about gaming, esports, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, we don't. If you just watch like the first like intro, like here's Sarutobi. I suck at this game where you kind of swing around as a monkey and see how far you can go. Bitcoin Bounce, super addicting. It's a mobile app. It's a stat stacker game where you can literally just go. It's so easy to win sats. B Sports, yes. I don't know if I've watched this whole thing. Here's like the rainbow-ish road.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool. I gotta play that.
Fill station. You can like drive through, stack some sats. The Mario Kart is cool. We do have a VR component where you can kind of go in and like hang out. There's like a virtual art gallery and stuff. But yeah, the VR component, there's not a ton going on. That's just kind of a side thing. But yeah, everybody should join us. There's like a really cool, spooky Halloween themed track. It's my favorite where like these ghosts come out and like try and get you and like hanging corpses or something. It's super creepy. So if you're into that, definitely join us.
You got to check it out. I'm fired up about it now. I'm definitely going to spend some time looking more into this. All right. Well, thank you so much, Des and Alex, for your time. It was a ton of fun talking with you all and hearing more about Lightning Labs and Lightning Pool and Lightning Gaming and where Lolli is going. Super exciting on all fronts. So yeah, thanks for your time.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys.
Well, take care.
Bye. All right. Before I head out, I got a little bit more shilling to do. Don't forget Bitcoin TV, BitcoinTV.network, and the Buy Now beta. We need some help. People who like to smash buy on Bitcoin, which is everyone here. You can do that. Help us test. So it's swanbitcoin.com/buy now. And of course, we are in New York, as I said, and Brecky produced a beautiful video for our New York announcement. So go ahead and roll tape, Breck.
In a world filled with uncertainty, Bitcoin gives us hope. And if we work together, we can bring about a bright orange future just a little bit sooner. With low-fee automatic buys, daily, weekly, or monthly, free automatic withdrawals, and world-class Bitcoin education, we've made it safe and easy to accumulate Bitcoin because you have your life to live. So go on and live it. All over the US, people are choosing Swan to achieve their Bitcoin goals. But in the financial capital of the world, the options for building your Bitcoin future are limited. Today, we are proud to announce that Swan Bitcoin is now open for business in all 50 states, including the great state of New York. Sign up at swanbitcoin.com/New York and get $10 of free Bitcoin when you become a member. Together, we are helping to build that bright orange future from sea to shining sea. We are advocates. We are educators. We are Bitcoiners.